Hello, and welcome back to the Earn Your Badge from Home program. Today, y'all are going to be earning your first Coding for Good badge by building a project using HTML or JavaScript. So, if you're not familiar with what those words mean, those are programming languages that you can use to display images and text, which is what we're going to be doing today. So, let's just get started. Alright, so this should be the first template that you accessed. It's your All About Me project. This is kind of like a mini warm-up project we're going to do to kind of get acquainted with functions and working with HTML tags. So to start off with, let's just kind of look at this line by line. So first off, I want y'all to pay attention to line 5, where we have our H1 tag. Now, a tag are these little red bits of code here that basically hold some sort of property that they're going to apply to the text that's between their opening and closing tag. So here in H1 tag is a header. Any text we place between these two pieces is going to look like a header, thus being very large and being very bold. Now there are 6 different kinds of headers. So what we can say is after the H, change this to be a 2. I get like a red alert saying that my opening and closing don't match. Opening and closing simply just means it gives us a way to distinguish what text is actually having this property applied to it and how we don't get the rest of our code looking super big and bold. So here I change this to being H2, and now it's a different kind of header. It's still a little bit more obnoxious than body text. It's bolded and larger, but it's not quite as large as my first one. So that's just kind of to show how you can experiment with that a little bit. So I'm going to change it back to H1. Let's keep it nice and big. So this is obviously all about me, and it gives us our first line. Now next, I want to pay attention to here where we've inserted P1. Now this is a paragraph tag, and what creates text that looks like a body paragraph, right? And it's not going to be quite as large or bold. So anything in between the tag that says P or P1, it doesn't make a difference. This could say P and it would still do the same thing. But any text that's in between these two tags is what's going to look like that. So take a second to replace the text that's in between these two tags and actually say something about yourself. And you don't want to mess with these 2 lines right here. I just want to look at the code the text that's been highlighted. So here I'm going to say, my favorite food is pizza and I play volleyball. Just a quick little snippet about yourself. And then to see our change actually apply, this is super important. I make this mistake a lot too, but to make sure you can actually view your change, hit run in this top left corner. If you don't hit run, this code isn't going to be interpreted by your computer and nothing new is going to happen. So I'm going to hit run. And now exactly what I typed into my paragraph portion is what gets displayed over here on the side. So now I want to take a second. Let's scroll down a little bit. We see some colored code, right? It looks a little different. So all of this stuff in between here is inside of what we call a script tag. Now a script tag is basically ways for us to insert little mini pieces of JavaScript into our HTML code to give it some sort of varied output. So what we've done here is we have created a function using JavaScript. Now a function is basically like a mini set of instructions that you can write. The instructions are what go between the curly braces. So this is my whole function. So what my function does is I gave it a name. It's called print name, and it takes in 2 inputs. So here what it does is it takes in the input of somebody's first name, and then it takes in one more input, another piece of information of somebody's last name. And then inside, this is where it runs its instruction. It says, okay, take the person's first name, take their last name, and then put it along in the same sentence, adding text that says so-and-so likes to code. And then ultimately output that whole thing that it's created. So that's what the return portion does. So what I really want you to think about when you think in functions, think about taking in 1 or 2 or multiple pieces of information, doing something cool with it inside and to change it, and ultimately outputting some sort of value. So here what we're outputting is a singular sentence with a person's first and last name. So here let's actually get this function running, right? So we've given our set of instructions and we're saying it's looking for some sort of input, Now let's say, okay, run my set of instructions, complete this action. That's what we're going to do over here. And I'll explain what all this stuff here looks like in just a second. But first, let's actually get something displaying. So here I'm going to add the equal sign. And then we are going to call our function. Calling it means writing down its name. So I'm going to say print name. So we're writing down its name and then adding a set of opening, closing parentheses. If you add your opening parenthesis, it'll automatically fill for you. And then inside, we're going to give it the input that we're looking to place. So I'm going to put my first and my last name. To do this, I'm going to add a set of quotations. Again, it'll autocomplete for you. And then I'm going to say my first name. So I'm going to say Sangeeta. That's my name. And then I'm going to hit space once because a space is a character and I want a space between my first name and my last name. So if I want my computer to insert a space between my first and my last name, I'm going to have to add a space here with my input. And then we're going to add a comma to show we're separating another piece of information. And then we're going to add another set of quotations. And here, let's add our last name. So I got a longer one, so I'm going to just scooch this panel a little bit so we can work with it. And then I'm going to add my semicolon at the very end outside of the parentheses. So now when I hit run, that sentence that we talked about appeared, right? Because essentially what's happening is your computer sees, oh, there you have said, let's call this function. Let's actually run the set of instructions that they wrote earlier, take in the two inputs that they gave us, and it looks here. It looks back up to the top where its instructions were written, places the two pieces we gave it, along with the last bit, and ultimately outputs it. That's what the return statement does. And that's how we got this appearing here after we hit run in the top left corner. Now let's take a second to kind of look at what the beginning half means. So here, a big thing I want you to think about, especially with HTML, is the order that which you write your code is the order that which it displays, right? So here, we wrote our all about me header at the top, which is why it appears at the top. If I change this, if I cut and paste this to be underneath my all about me paragraph, or, the quick sentence I wrote, my header changes as well. So then some of you might be noticing this and thinking, all right, if you just said that the code that which, if the order that which our code is what gets displayed on the panel, then how come our statement that says Sangeeta Prabhakaran likes to code is at the bottom in my code, but appearing in the middle on my display? Well, because, again, this is a section of JavaScript. We've given it some sort of advanced instruction, right? What we did is we said at the top, we created a paragraph tag and we gave it an ID called demo. Demo is us creating a placeholder within our HTML. We're saying, hey, we're creating a spot in between our code that's waiting for some sort of other piece to be placed in it, So the piece that got placed in it was our JavaScript code. So we created the placeholder between these two statements, and then we went down here in JavaScript and we said get element by ID, and notice how the word here says demo as well. We're telling it which placeholder to identify, and then .innerHTML is what gets whatever this ultimately outputs to be printed. So this ultimately outputs this, which is why it got placed in that placeholder, which is between these two lines, and that's how this sentence here appeared. So that's what we're going to do with our All About Me project. Now you'll kind of have a little bit, hopefully, of an understanding of functions and using HTML tags. Now let's figure out how you can create your meme using HTML and JavaScript. So now take a second, if you don't already have your second template opened, go to the Create Your Own Meme template. That's that second template linked on Google Classroom. So this is what your meme template should look like now. All right, so hopefully you've gotten a chance to get there if you already don't have it open. So what we're going to do here is learn how to insert an image using HTML. And you're going to create a meme line. You're going to write some sort of witty line, and then we're going to create a button that when clicked on displays the image that pairs with your meme line. So let's start with the easy part, just creating some sort of funny comment or some sort of witty line, right? So let's go into our HTML section at the top. And then inside of my H2 tag, my other header, right? It's not quite as large as the first time with the H1 tag. Here, I'm going to say my meme line is, I'm going to delete what's already existing. Don't delete any of those like symbols that follow your tag, like what looks like the less than and greater than symbols. You want those to still be there. It's just whatever text you write in between should appear gray and between these two. So here I'm going to say my line is, when my sister steals my food. And then once again, hit run. And then here, my line appeared. And next, I'm going to create a button, some sort of button to appear. This button's not going to do much yet because we haven't told it to, but some sort of button to replace this line here that just says create a button. So I'm going to delete what I have on line 1 just because that was created as a placeholder for you to see where you want to write this code. And we're going to create a button tag. So, but to do this, find the less than symbol on your keyboard. It's right next to the M. And then we're going to type in button. And then when I hit my greater than symbol, my closing tag will automatically appear for me. Like that. Okay? And now any text we place between these two is going to appear on a button. So I'm going to say surprise is the text that appears on top of my button. If you want, you can have it say show your picture. You can have this text say absolutely anything you want. I'm going to have it say surprise. So now that piece that said create a button before is replaced with an actual button that I can click on. But I can click on it, nothing just happens, right? Because we haven't told anything to happen. So to actually get an image displaying when that happens, let's look into our JavaScript portion. Now, our JavaScript portion has two functions in it. First off, it has this kind of chunky looking one that's been written for you. It's your show image function. Now, what this does is it takes in 4 inputs. It takes in and what we say a source, which is the image address. It's the picture itself, the dimensions that you want your picture to have, whether it's 200 by 400 pixels or so on, and then an alternate message, which we'll talk about more in a second. But it takes in 4 inputs, and it does some magic on them with this code to have your image adjust to the width and height that you gave it, as well as actually display. And then here is your add meme function. This is kind of us putting everything together. So add meme is what we are going to edit. So this is us finding the actual image, and then you're going to put in your 4 inputs for your show image function and actually tell all the instructions that have been written in here to run by calling it on line 3 inside of your add meme function. Okay, so first off, let's find a picture that we're interested in. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to go to a new tab. I'm just going to say funny dog pictures. So I can have something to pair with my meme. This is just to show y'all how you can pick an image address. I actually have another one already saved, but to do this, what we're going to do is find an image address. This is the picture's physical location on the internet, right? So say I pick this one. So click on the picture, go all the way to images and click on the picture. And then once I get this kind of preview here, I'm going to right click. Some of you, if you might have trouble right clicking, you can click on your trackpad on your computer with 2 fingers at the same time, and you'll get the same kind of box appearing. And then super, super important, find copy image address. You don't want copy image, you don't want copy link address, copy image address, okay? So once you click here, and then you go back to your create your own meme, you're going to go to line 2, where we have var src. src is the source. Where is the picture coming from? And we are going to store this inside of this variable. That's what var stands for. So a quick recap. A variable is a place for us to simply store information. It can be numbers, it can be letters, it can be words. In this case, it's going to be the image address, right? And we're storing this image address so that we can, inside of this variable that says src, so that we can use it, say, in multiple places if we wanted to. Okay? So inside of the quotations, I'm going to hit Control V or Command V, depending on the computer you have, so you can paste your image address. For some of you, this might look super, super long. Like if you paste it and you have a really long image address, not a big deal. It's not going to affect your code negatively, but for me, I prefer to find images that are short because then it saves me a lot of scrolling, and also sometimes the longer ones, a problem can occur with them. So I'd recommend just going back and finding another image address. Also, at this point, if you're having trouble finding image addresses, I do have a few linked on Google Classroom that you can simply just copy and paste in here if you're having trouble copying the image address. Okay, so this is stored inside of the quotations, which is why it's yellow, and then there's a semicolon at the end. So now let's give our show image function all of the inputs it requires. So the first piece of input we're going to give it is the image. So I'm going to delete these quotations that I've placed there for you. That's just to show you that there's some sort of place that requires information. And I'm actually just going to type in the words src, source. So what we're doing here is it's going to say, okay, I have a variable source. Let me see what it's storing, which is the image address. And this whole piece is essentially getting inserted into this function. The reason we took the extra step to actually store it in a variable is because it just makes everything look a lot cleaner and you don't have this giant line inside of your function call. You want your function call to be very neat so you can clearly see all your inputs, and it'll help prevent errors. And also, say you wanted to do multiple things with your image, having it stored under one variable saves you the process of having to copy and paste it several times and just have a lot of what looks like useless words and text appearing all over your screen. So storing it in one place and then just being able to just type in 3 simple letters makes our lives a lot easier. So that's our first input, our image address. Next, let's give it a width. So I'm going to say I want this image to start out being 200. So 200, what is it? 200 centimeters, 200 inches. This is 200 pixels. Easiest way to describe what a pixel is think about a mosaic and think about each individual piece in a mosaic, right? Computers work the same way. Your entire computer screen is made up of thousands of tiny little pixels, each one exhibiting some sort of light to make up your computer screen, right? And so these little pixels are arranged in a grid all over your computer screen. And because they're arranged in a grid, it allows us to also use them as some sort of form of measurement. So if I say I want it to be 200 pixels wide, it's 200 of those little tiny squares wide. So then I'm going to say, let's also do height of 200. And then my last piece of input that I said we would talk about later, it's later, is what is going to go in for input for alt. Now, alt is an alternate message. It's us saying if there is a problem with the image address, say the image no longer exists, or whoever, held it, the website took it down, or, maybe we copied and pasted it wrong. We have some sort of message displaying to say that there's a problem with the picture. Because at the end of the day, if we have a really long program, there could be an error anyway, right? And we want to be able to locate the reason an image might not necessarily be displaying, as maybe there's a problem in our code somewhere else, but not with the picture itself. So this allows us to eliminate that. If we get this alternate message displaying, I'm going to say we can't display that. It lets us know as the programmer that there's nothing wrong with the code. We just need to find a new image address or adjust the one we already have. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take a quick second and copy the image address of the picture I wanted to actually use. This was just to show y'all how to do it. Okay, so no big deal. I just picked a different picture that I was interested in using. And so now, hit run, hit surprise, and nothing happens. Now, that's okay. We expected this because we've written our function, we've given it the instructions that it needs. But we did not call this function anywhere. We never said add meme should run anywhere. We just told it what to do, which was what was inside. So let's actually say tell add meme to run. Well, this add meme function should run, our picture should display, only when our button gets clicked on. So let's go to the button portion of our HTML section. And then inside of the opening tag, I'm going to add a space and say on click. You want your capitalization and everything to look the exact same way that I'm making it. So onClick is quite literally, it's looking for the event of a user clicking on the button. And then I'm going to say equal. So this is us giving it some sort of action to occur when our button gets clicked on. And then I'm going to add a set of quotations. And here is where I'm going to add my function call. So the way I'm writing the name of my function needs to match exactly how it looks here. So it's going to be all lowercase, add, underscore, no spaces, meme, open and closing parenthesis, and then end it with a semicolon. So be super careful of everything that's inside of this. So now we're telling our function to run when our button gets clicked on. So now I click on surprise, and I have the picture that I wanted to appear. So take a second, see if you can get it to work. If you need to, you can always refer to the completed version of the project if you're having a small error. And you can also always post a question on Google Classroom and post this exact link to your project. You can just copy and paste it. And I can always look at your project and help you out if you have any errors. But if everything's working, if you got your picture displaying and you got your meme, then at this point you have completed your first Coding for Good badge. Congratulations!